What is up, YouTube? How's everyone doing out there today? I'm sitting in my C5 Corvette right now, and I have a question to all of you C5 Corvette owners, people who have test driven them. Have you ever thought to yourself, man, the stock shifters in a C5 are just complete garbage? If they're stock, if you've ever driven one that has a stock shifter, you know that those shifters belong in trucks. They have really long throws, they're not precise, they got a lot of play. Now, when I bought mine already came with an aftermarket short throw shifter. And the problem with the short throw shifters for the C5 is that a lot of them are not that good, actually. So, for example, this one, while I got the car running now, warming it up a little bit just to warm up the inside, because we're going to be spending a little bit of time in here. For example, I'll show you what I mean. So, if you're driving a stick, you know how when it goes into gear, you just feel it like pop into gear. Whereas this, it like sort of does it twice. So if I go left to go into first, then watch this. 1, 2. See that? And it does that with every gear change. So I felt it, but you cannot. Now it does that with every gear change pretty much. So still, if I wanted to do first again, 1. So it does that with every gear change pretty much. Like, you could even hear it like sort of like going in twice. You hear that? It's like 1, 2. And the problem with a lot of these shifters is that they have that, and sometimes they're really hard to get into reverse. Like I have to really force it in sometimes to get it into reverse. And another problem is that 5th and 6th are really hard to get into. So I'm in 4th right now, and to get into 5th, I really have to push it really, really hard in that direction, almost like as if I wanted to get into reverse. Otherwise, it's just gonna like pull back and go into 3rd, or if I want to go into 6th from 5th, it would pull back to the center and go into 4th. Now this shifter is better than the stock shifter that comes in a C5. I mean, even though it's notchy, I don't have to worry about missing a gear if I want to switch gears fast. Like, this is more accurate, but it's still not what I'm looking for. So I got an MGW shifter, which everyone says is like putting an entirely new transmission in your car. Everything feels butter smooth, everything feels like new, and there is no better shifter for the C5 Corvette than an MGW. So alright, so before you even start doing anything, really, the first thing you want to make sure is that you're in neutral. So I'm in neutral, I can start working on it. First thing, you want to take your gum, put it on the side. You're not going to need that over here. Take that. Oh, by the way, this is actually a pretty cool thing. If you have a C5 Corvette, you know that it only has one cup holder, and that cup holder is really only good for holding in quarters. So I got something like this. It costs a whole $12.99. You open this little cup cover, or whatever you want to call it, the door, slide this on, and now you actually can put a drink in it, and it's gonna hold it in place. So that's pretty cool. It's I'll leave the link down to the description if you want to get this. It's corvetteclips.com, and it's pretty cool. You just, like I said, it just pops onto here, and you can make your own custom lettering if you want to. Right here, they engrave the lettering for you. So I just put down Corvette. Right. So first thing I got to do is I got to take this part of the center console out. That's the first thing I got to do. Alright, so this being with a Corvette, it's very easy to remove this. Pretty much, there is one screw in here, like where the cigarette lighter is. There is one screw in there where you have the temperature sensor. And then I got 2 screws here, which I take out to sort of slide this whole thing back. And then this is going to be much easier to take off. And I gotta find a good place to put all these screws so I don't lose them. I think I can put them in there for now. Let's just hope I don't forget that I have them in there, and then I don't take the box and just throw all the screws out. I'm really hoping that this shifter is going to be as good as everyone makes it out to be. It's going to be kind of disappointing if it just turns out to be complete garbage, but if everyone says MGW is the way to go, then I hope that they are right. Right, we got that screw, we got that screw. Now, let's break out the socket wrench. Got so much junk in here, we'll just throw it in there. Oh, look. Man, sometimes when you start taking stuff out, you just start finding stuff out of nowhere. Look, this is from my old mirror. It's a little cover that goes in the map light right here on the mirror. So I actually had to replace my mirror because the clips into which the light bulb goes in were broken in my old mirror. So I got a new mirror, and wow, cool. Now it's the same thing with this. It's got a little cover on, but for some reason I only got the cover on one side. I don't know where I put the cover from the other side on. And now I got 2 screws here that I gotta take out. Oh, and I gotta pop this off with the traction control button, which is the same thing. Just pry it open. You could take, what's funny about this, you could take apart half a car by just prying stuff off with a screwdriver. It's the best thing ever. People say, oh my god, it's terrible build quality, it's a Corvette, it's plastic. Yeah, but look, I can take apart half the car in like half an hour using only a screwdriver. Okay, so two bolts here, socket wrench, 2 here, but these 2 are just for this part. Like they actually are joined here and here. It's 2 separate pieces. So if I take these off and then this off, I can slide this piece forward, and it gives me much more wiggle room to get this piece out. Now this little thing is called a demon key, so you pretty much just need to pry it up from 2 sides and it comes right out, and then I'll be able to unscrew the shifter. This is pretty much what keeps the shifter, the head, from coming loose. So one side, other side, pry it up, and it's out, just like that. Now I actually won't be needing that because I got a new knob for the MGW shifter, which means I won't have to be reusing this. I like the feel of it, I like how it feels on my hand, but I just don't like the look of it. So I went with an MGW knob. Boom. It's as simple as that. Okay, so now I can start wiggling this out again. I'm gonna try moving this back a little bit. There we go. That gives me more space. And now this, I can start wiggling this out little by little. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to unplug the cigarette lighter. There we go. Almost got it. There we go. Come on, baby. What else? Oh, now I got this cigarette lighter connection in there. There we go. Right, I think, boom, easy as that. I think I'll just put that in the back for now. And this can stay right where it is. It's not gonna be in the way. Okay, so now that we got all this stuff off, we can start pulling apart the shifter. Now, first thing I gotta do is take these 4 bolts off, and that's gonna take like this little boot cover off. Now this boot is used for like soundproofing and stuff like that, so if you're replacing a shifter, definitely don't use it, because if you do lose it and then you put your shifter back together and you're not gonna have this, the next thing you're gonna know, you're gonna have a ton of like wind and road noise coming in through the tunnel because, well, you don't have any soundproofing. Right. Come on, baby, come off. There we go. So here we have the entire shifter assembly. Right, so before I start pulling this thing apart, you can sort of take a look and see how everything works now. You know, you got the shifter here. It's got the same little round ball or something of the sort that new shifter has, and it's inside the box right now, but you cannot see it. But there is a rod right here, and if I start moving this thing, you see it moves along with this, this is pretty much the whole shift rod that goes all the way back there. So now I guess we could just start pulling this thing apart piece by piece. So with the shifters, it's going to be the same process except in reverse, taking them out and putting them in. So pulling out this shifter, I got to pull out the upper box, and then I could do the lower box. And then when I'm going to be installing the new one, lower box first and then the upper box. And there you go. So this actually has this weird little thing, which my shifter doesn't. I don't know what this is. This is kind of weird. But as you saw when I was showing you the new shifter, it's got the same thing, that it's just gonna, you know, be that little ball that goes into that circular thing right here. So now that I got that off, the next part I gotta do is I gotta take this bolt out and these two bolts out. I'm gonna put this somewhere where this grease is not gonna touch anything, so I'll put it back there where it's safe. Now let's hope this little gun with like most of its battery gone can get the job done. Oop. Yeah, looks like I'm gonna have to go by hand. Yep, so I gotta do these bolts by hand because they're pretty tight. There we go. Maybe even more tight than they need to be. And that's 3. Now you can see this whole thing moving around. So what I gotta do now is sort of try to get this whole thing out of there, which might be a little bit difficult. There, pull it out with this rod. Come on, baby, there we go, we got it. Right, so the next thing I gotta do is I gotta take this thing out of this box and put it into the new one. Now from what I can see, I gotta take out these 2 screws here because there's a big opening there that's covered, and then this thing should just come right out. So, but I gotta be careful because there's some grease in this whole thing, so maybe I'll do it outside. Just like I said, I took these 2 screws out, this thing came out, and then this thing just came right out of there. Now I put this thing back together because I don't want the grease coming out and getting into the car. So now what I gotta do is I gotta get this into the new lower box of the MGW shifter. So I put it together just a little bit for you guys so you guys could see what it looks like in the beginning, but now I gotta take it apart because that's not the way it came. And what's cool, thank you MGW for supplying this. It's actually a really cool thing. So now I gotta pull these screws out of here. These 4 screws. Now this little thing is just gonna come right off, and it's got these 2 bushings here which are really nice, but I'm gonna have to take them off. And I'm gonna have to put him onto this little guy right here, 1 and 2, and then I can put this right back in there, and I gotta make sure the bushings are lined up with the holes, and now I can put this little guy back on how it was before. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Easy as that. These screws are a little tight, but that's good. They got to be tight, everything. But everything does have to be tight here because, you know, there's vibrations and everything. So you want to make sure these screws don't come loose, because then your shifter is gonna start feeling sloppy. It's not gonna be as accurate. It might not want to go into gear anymore. And tighten it down in a diagonal pattern, always. Never go in a circular motion, always go diagonally. So now that I got all 4 bolts in, I can once again make sure that they're really, really tight, all 4 of them. Alright, there we go. Now that I've got this thing in here. Right, so now that I got this thing into the lower box, I can actually install the lower box itself. Now, this little rod here, you can see it's got a little notch. You can see it's got a little notch right here. So you want to make sure that the notch is towards the driver, that it's on this side and it's facing me. So this has got to be lined up like this. There we go. Now the first thing you want to do what I want to do is I want to get this rod, the little notch aligned with this hole, and screw it into that hole. So I want to align it just like that. Where did I put those bolts? Here they are. And then I want to put this bolt and screw it in. Now I'm not going to make anything super tight yet until I get the box set up. So now I can use the centering tool that MGW provides you. So actually what I'm going to do to make this a little bit easier is I'm going to put on these bolts just so this thing doesn't move around so much anymore. I'm gonna leave it slack to move around. I'm putting these bolts in just so they settle, but I'm not making anything tight yet. So now this thing is not going to be moving around on me anymore. I can still move it, as you see. So now I can get this centering tool here. I can put it into this, and now what I have to do is line the box up with these holes. I'm going to actually take the screws. So now I'm actually going to take the shifter mounting bolt, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 of those bolts through both of these holes here. That's 1, that's 2, and now the shifter is perfectly centered. The lower box is perfectly centered. Now the shifter goes on the lower box and it doesn't have any adjustment. So if you're gonna adjust something and you gotta center something out, you gotta center this out. So now that this is perfectly centered, I can go ahead and tighten everything. So, wrong key. So I'm gonna start by tightening this down. Now you want to make it tight, but you want to make it just hand tight. Like, don't use any crazy power tools or anything like that. Just stick with what you got and you'll be fine. Just stick with what you got in your hand and just do it by hand. Don't like tighten them using power tools. Oh, it's a little bit one size too small. There we go. Now I got the whole shifter lined up. And I can take these bolts off. I could take this thing off now. I'm not going to need it anymore. And now we could get to mounting the actual shifter into the lower box. And MGW gave me a nice little gasket here, which I'm going to go ahead and put on right now. Perfect fit. I'm going to get this out. Oh, greasy. There we go. Just like that. The shifter is in place. This is kind of in the way. Right. So now I can start putting these bolts in. Now the cool thing about the MGW shifter, one thing I forgot to say, is when you put these bolts in, then you got little Allen keys bolts on the side, and that's to keep these bolts from backing out. So they took like every precaution possible to make sure that every bolt is secure, that everything is tight. It's just, you can see why this shifter is $450 as compared to other aftermarket short shifters that are like $150, for example. And it's actually getting a little hot in here. I got my keys somewhere in there. I would gladly open a window or two right now. That's 3. Ooh, hang on. There we go. That's a lot better. So once again, you want to make it tight, but don't use power tools. Just hand tighten everything. So now that I got these 4 bolts done, I could tighten these a little bit. Okay, so I got all the 4 Allen key bolts tightened. I put the shifter on, the knob, just temporary. Now I'm gonna start the car, and with the car running, just see how the entire shifter runs. Man, you hear everything through here with no boot on. Oh yeah, first thing I noticed right away, 5 to 6. It's so much easier right now. Can't wait to take this thing out for a test drive. It goes into gears lighter. The side to side movements are much easier. And 5 to 6 is so much easier now. So I cannot wait to take this car for a drive and see how it does. Okay, so you guys pretty much saw the entire process for, how I took everything apart. So I'm just gonna skip forward to when everything's back together, and we're gonna go for a ride and see how it does. Right, so the only thing left to do is take this thing for a test drive, see how it runs. I gotta sit lower when I'm using the camera on my head. Gotta lower the mirrors and everything. Right. Okay, went into first gear much faster right away. Oh yeah, it's much better. It goes into gear a lot smoother than the old shifter did. That's a good difference already. The biggest difference that I noticed in this shifter is that going into fifth and into sixth is 10 times easier than it used to be in the old shifter. The side-to-side movements are not as stiff, and going into the actual gears like 1 to 4, it goes into them a lot smoother, and also reverse goes in a lot smoother also. And now let's try fifth gear. Oh my god, fifth gear, it goes in like butter. I had to really force it into fifth gear with the old shifter, but now it goes in like butter. And what about sixth gear? Yeah, no problem. No problem. This shifter is so much better. It definitely is so much better than the old shifter. Yeah, and going back from 6 to 5, for example, it's also much easier. Into fourth, no problem. Into third. Yeah. Yeah, this shifter is freaking awesome. Yeah, I could never go into fifth gear that fast before, but now I could. Yeah, I could never bang gears that quick with the old shifter. If I went drag racing now, I could easily shave probably 2 to 3 tenths because of the shifter alone. It is so damn good right now. Yeah, if I ever attempted to go from 2 to 3 that quick with the old shifter, I would grind going into third every single time. I always had to, you know, just let off a little bit as to how fast I change gears with that shifter. But with this one, I don't have to worry about it. I go into gear, no problem. No problem. I mean, 2 to 3, that was the one that worried me the most, because I used to grind on the old shifter a lot of times actually. But with this one, bang, just right into gear, no issues, no grinding, nothing. And then with normal driving, 5 and 6 are so much easier, so much smoother right now. Yeah, so I like the little bit of notchiness that's left in the shifter, because, you know, I still get like good confirmation that I'm actually in gear. It doesn't even leave me wondering, like, am I in gear or no? Like, I don't have that feeling. Like, bam, it goes into gear. I know I'm in gear, and there's no doubts in my mind. Yeah, fifth gear, oh my god, it's a no-brainer right now with this shifter. Like I said, it did retain a little bit of the notchiness of a short shifter, but that's what I was expecting, you know, with it being a short shifter, but still, it's good. Good. Yeah, bags into gears, no problem right now. So overall, I'm really satisfied with the shifter. It really is worth the money, and it does make a huge difference. Even over an aftermarket shifter already. I cannot imagine the difference going from a stock shifter to an MGW like this, but I can tell you that, you know, going from a different short shifter to an MGW still makes a really big difference. If you want to know where I got my shifter, if you want to know where I got my shifter, I'll leave a link in the description where I got mine. You can order yours. You can also order one of these shift knobs. They also got like one that's like more round, it's just more thick, but I wanted this one. This one looks a lot better. So I'll also leave a link to my Instagram if you want to go check that out. I post pictures more regularly than I post videos. So if you want to, definitely check it out. And that's all for today. Once again, if you really are considering a short shifter for your Corvette, MGW, this is the one to get. It will not disappoint. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to see more, subscribe, like, comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.